I never thought my sister would turn into a nightmare. But when she moved in with me, my quiet life was shattered. It all started when she promised to help with the bills. She had just lost her job, and I couldn't say no. At first, things were okay. She paid her share on time. We even laughed together like we used to when we were kids. But then, slowly, she stopped paying. The first month, I thought it was just a delay. The second month, I reminded her not to forget about the rent. She brushed me off with a wave and a weak smile. By the third month, she kept changing her hair color. I start getting worried. I told her firmly that she had to pay or I can't keep her here. Her face twisted into a dark expression. She snapped. She told me if I really think that I can kick her out of the house, and she reminded me that we are sisters. I felt a chill run down my spine. Something had changed in her. I tried to stay calm, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was in over my head. My friends warned me. They told me that I am being too nice and that she is taking advantage of me, but I couldn't see it. I wanted to believe she'd come around. I kept thinking of all the times we played together as kids, how she had always been my protector. Then came the night when I heard strange noises. It was late, and I couldn't sleep. I tiptoed out of my room, drawn by the sound of whispered voices. I peered into the living room and saw her talking to someone. But when I got closer, the room was empty. She was alone, her eyes wide and unfocused. I thought maybe she was just talking to herself, but it felt eerie. Days passed, and she grew more distant. I noticed her changing more. She would leave the apartment for hours, and when she came back, she looked different, almost wild. I wanted to confront her, but the words felt stuck in my throat. I could sense something dark lurking just beneath the surface. One evening, I found her in the kitchen, staring at a pot of water boiling over. I asked her what she was doing. She turned to me, her expression blank. She boldly told me that she was making a potion. My heart raced. A potion for what? For you, she said, her smile sending chills down my spine. I backed away slowly, unsure of what to do. I whispered that I think she needs help, but she just laughed. Help? You're the one who needs help, sister. The next day, I called my friend, Mia, hoping for some clarity. We went to the club. I was trying to clear my head. I unloaded everything. I told Mia that I don't know what to do and that she's becoming a stranger. I'm scared. Mia's expression turned serious. She told me that I can't keep living like this and that I have to protect myself. One night, while scrolling through social media, I came across a video of a local witchcraft ceremony. My stomach sank. The people in the video were dressed in traditional attire, chanting and dancing around a fire. I felt sick as I thought about my sister's strange behavior and her obsession with potions. I decided to confront her again. I saw something about a witchcraft ceremony. Are you getting involved with that? I asked, my voice shaking. She laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. You think I need a ceremony to be powerful? I can do that on my own, she sneered. I felt the walls closing in around me. It got worse. She changed as if she was living a double life. My apartment, once neat and tidy, turned into a chaotic mess. Dishes piled up, and trash overflowed. I couldn't stand it anymore. One evening with tears in my eyes I shouted, "That is my home, you need to clean up too, or get out." She stood there, unmoved, her face a mask of indifference. You think you can make me leave? We're family, she said, her tone icy. I felt a wave of despair wash over me. I was trapped. One evening, I woke up to the sound of my door creaking open. I sat up, my heart pounding. She stood there in the dark, staring at me with those wild eyes. You think you can get rid of me? She whispered. You're stuck with me. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I felt trapped in my own home. The next day, I decided to talk to her again. I was trying to keep my voice steady. I told her that this can't go on like this. That she need to pay the rent or move out. Her expression twisted into anger. "You'll regret this," she hissed. I was living in a nightmare. Each day was a struggle. I tried to reach out to my parents, but they were in denial. "She's your sister, she needs help, not judgment," they said. I felt so alone. I couldn't talk to anyone about the darkness that was enveloping our lives. One afternoon, I came home to find her in the living room, surrounded by candles and strange objects. She was muttering something, and the air felt heavy with tension. "What are you doing?" I asked, fear creeping in. She looked at me, her eyes gleaming. "I'm making a spell," she said with a grin. "To protect our home." "Protect us from what?" I wanted to ask, but the words wouldn't come. I felt a cold sweat on my brow. I took a step back, not wanting to provoke her. At this point, I thought that she really messed up. Days passed, and I tried to ignore the feeling of dread that hung in the air. I started looking for a new apartment, but it wasn't easy. The idea of leaving my sister behind tore at my heart. I thought about all the memories, the laughter we shared. But she was no longer that person. One night, I heard a loud crash. I rushed to the living room to find furniture overturned, and my sister standing in the middle, her face twisted with rage. "You're trying to abandon me," she screamed. I could hardly recognize her. "I'm not abandoning you. You need help," I shouted back. She advanced toward me, her eyes dark and filled with something unrecognizable. "You'll pay for this," she hissed. Panic surged through me. I knew I had to get out. I spent the next few days packing my things, trying to keep my distance from her. It was hard, but I felt like I had no choice. I was living in a horror story, and I was the main character who couldn't escape. Finally, the day came when I could move. I found a small place on the other side of town. As I packed the last box, I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. I realized I had lost my sister to something dark and powerful. When I turned the key to my new apartment, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I was free. But as I settled in, I couldn't shake the feeling that I hadn't seen the last of her. A few weeks later, while I was unpacking, I received a message from her. "You can't escape me, my lovely sister." My heart sank. I felt the walls of my new life closing in again. I didn't respond, but I started to feel paranoid. Every time I heard a noise outside, I would jump. I knew she was still out there, plotting, waiting for her chance to confront me again. Then, one night, there was a knock on my door. My heart raced. I looked through the peephole, and there she was, her eyes wild and her hair unkempt. She shouted, to let her in. I stood frozen, fear coursing through me. I told her I would call the police. She left. Days turned into weeks. I tried to settle into my new life, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I felt like I was being hunted. I started to see shadows in the corners of my vision, hear whispers when I was alone. One evening, I was lying in bed, feeling exhausted, when I heard scratching at my window. I sat up, heart pounding. I pulled back the curtain and gasped. There she was, staring at me with an unsettling grin. "You thought you could get away," she said, her voice chilling. As the months went by, I learned to keep my guard up. I avoided social events, stayed inside, and changed my routines. I could feel her presence, lurking just outside my door. Then one night, as I was falling asleep, I felt something brush against my arm. I shot up in bed, breathing heavily. There, at the foot of my bed, was my sister. "I told you I'd find you," she whispered. I was too terrified to move. I knew I needed to confront her for the last time. "Why are you doing this?" "I just want to live my life," I cried out. She stepped closer, her expression shifting between anger and sorrow. "You think you can leave me behind? I'm your sister. You owe me." I took a deep breath, summoning all my courage. "You need help, and I can't keep enabling you. You've changed into someone I don't recognize." Her face twisted in rage, and I knew I had struck a nerve. You'll regret those words, she spat before disappearing into the shadows of the room. I called my parents again, begging them for help. They told me to come the next day and we will see what is going on. The next day I got to my parents. My sister was sitting there already, with a smile on her face. My parents asked, what was the problem between us? I explained, but my sister denied everything. What she didn't know is that I recorded everything in the new apartment. I showed my parents. They couldn't believe their eyes. They asked her what was all this. They thought she was possessed. She wanted to scream, but my father stood up and told her to respect all of us in this house. She calmly sat down and she started talking. She said that when she was a little girl, she was feeling ignored and that I got all my parents' attention. She felt neglected. My parents couldn't believe it and I didn't know that my sister was feeling like that. I told her that I was very sorry and remind her that we were little kids and I didn't know better. My parents also told her that they were sorry, they never intended that to happen. Back in those days, you try your best to raise kids the way they were raised and try even better. They said maybe that's why she became a handful. My mother cooked dinner, but she also did a cure potion for my sister, because she wasn't herself anymore. My parents think that by she losing her job, might have triggered her childhood feelings. She felt worthless and started acting up on me. They saw how serious this was and decided to take her in for a while until she found a new job. As family we decide to meet every other Sunday at my parents' house, to try to heal our family bond. Thank God for that. We doing better now. I did move again now, this time a bit further away. I wanted a fresh start, a new life without her haunting me again, you never know, and these scars need healing too. I learned the hard way that sometimes family can turn wicked, and you must protect yourself first. Moral of the story, sometimes, kindness can be mistaken for weakness. It's important to recognize when someone is taking advantage of you, even if they're family. Don't judge someone for their actions, they might be deeper scar that you don't know of. Biblical perspective, Proverbs 13 verse 20 teaches that we should walk with the wise to become wise, but the companion of fools suffers harm. Surround yourself with good influences and protect your peace. Have you ever encountered something similar like this or have thoughts about this story? Please share your experiences. Have you ever rent a place to a sibling and then can't get them out? Doing business with family can be really messed up. Have you learned anything from this video? Let me know. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Until we meet next time, stay blessed.